And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back into the Dragon's Den. How's it going down under Maker? Hey there, Timor. How's it going? 4:20 on a Thursday. Yep, it's about that time, isn't it? It is about that time. You're on some whack time zone then, because it's 7:30 here. Yep. Yeah. So how you been, down under Maker? Been watching you and Steve build the index. See, there's still a few issues here and there with it. But yeah, I hope everybody's doing well tonight. Index is finally working. Good, good, very good. We're going to be drinking our last one. It kind of took a bit of a spill. And by spill, I mean the postman did that to me. So hopefully I can get it to open up without going everywhere. And then just for the ease of drinking, we're going to be pouring it into a mug because every part of this can has been beat up and knocked around. That over there. Hello, Eagle the Dragon. How's it going? Hope you're doing well. Bontuck are rushing you a replacement filament sensor. Nice. So I have a Elegoo Centauri Carbon around the other side of the streaming stuff here. I had two of them that came in for repair. They had installed canvas on them and neither one of them were working right. One of them, fairly easy to get going, and I've got it going on one of them. The other one, yeah, so this is why I didn't stream Tuesday, as I was working on that. It's got a dual 4-pin ribbon cable. It comes from the front board, goes up through a small channel and down into the backboard. That runs the filament runout sensor. So I worked on that. One of the wires had been pinched and severed. So I've got some pictures I'll post. So I wired in a piece of wire to fix that. So that part's fixed. Then I'm like, it's not registering a filament cut, therefore it will not complete a filament change. I'm like, okay. So I got to look at that. Two of the three wires had just, like, I looked at it and two of the wires just popped off. I'm like, didn't even touch the wire. Just undid it and pulled it out because it sits on top of the hot end cooling fan, and two of the wires broke. So I re-soldered all three wires. Still doesn't register the filament cut. So I'm kind of at a loss. I'm going to wind up going to Elegoo and seeing if I can't get some replacement parts, because apparently something in this board is not working. Oh yeah, it is. And running two 4-pin wires, one on top of the other, going across from the front to the back of the tool head, makes very little sense to me. Very little sense. And I'm doing everything I can to get this lady back up and running, because these are two machines that came to me out of South Carolina, so it's a 2.5-hour drive across state lines. So we're trying to get that going. So where are we at on the Unimog? So off stream, I did go ahead and finish putting the first axle together, and I don't know, axles together, right? But alignment is a bit off. So either I really did something wrong in the axle here, or this maybe wasn't, it is incorrectly printed. I don't know. I've got to, sadly to say, now take this whole thing apart to try and figure out what's going on here. Think I have all the right pieces. It could very well be that these pieces here may be for the rear axle. So I don't know. Something's not right, and I'll have to get that worked out. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and start the second axle while I take the time to go figure that out. Hopefully I can figure that out between now and Saturday when we stream again. Because I'd really like to put, you know, some servos in and get one axle completely done, but we'll have to come back and revisit. And, you know, that just means that we'll have to come in here and start working on some grease, and we'll take this and just set it aside for the moment. Everything is moving right. It's just the distance between those two horns is off, and it very well may be that I just grabbed the wrong horns and put the wrong horns in with the wrong axle parts. So we shall see. But Eagle, we're doing well. We're doing well. I sent Mrs. Dragon home because she has a meeting tonight, so I told her to go home and take her meeting at the house. And I will be here streaming for a little bit. Of course, I got off of a work meeting for the other job at, what time was it? 6:45. So just in time to lock the door and kick her out so I could start streaming. So if I seem a little all over the place, probably because I was on a work call until just a few minutes ago. All right, this stuff, portal axles, this stuff will come later. That stuff will come later. This stuff will come now. This one should be a lot less involved because this particular axle, the middle axle when you're not driving it is just a straight axle. There's no real steering or anything like that on this. So let me bring up the documentation here. And we're also going to see if we can get this camera working for a little bit. This will get a little bit smaller over here so you can still see me. See what I wanted. All righty. Camera. Hit the main camera. There we go. Nope, that one's still. All right, I give up. I thought it was just that the plug is a little loose in the back of the camera, but no, it's going to continue its saga of annoying the crap out of me. And now everything is. Hey, look at that. OBS is not responding. Not OBS, I'm sorry. OBS bot. So like the actual camera control software is not responding. So that's awesome. Anybody else have stream problems lately? Of course, I get the sneaky feeling that my computer did updates sometime recently, which always makes it. Let's come down here. There we go. A little bit straighter on. All right. We'll be doing this view. Sorry you get to see, you know, I'll try and plug things in here. But we're going to be working on our initial differentials here. So fun times. We'll be using various bits, bobs, and pieces, and we're going to look forward a little bit. I know we're going to need some bearings and stuff like that, but I'm going to look a little bit forward and see where we're going to need to drill or tap some holes. So also helps if I get the instructions pulled up, you can see what I'm looking at. There we go. Oh, so if I do the camera right, you can't see me at all behind. Best thing you can do is dump the OBS bot app and swap to the plugin for Stream Deck. It just works. Really? Okay, because I've got two of the Tiny 2 cameras. The one up here has worked all the time. The one on the tripod is the one that keeps like failing. And I don't know if it's a cabling thing or what. People are asking, is it overheating? Well, this is sitting on top of a monitor or two monitors next to LED lights. This one's on a tripod, basically sitting right out there in the open air. So I don't know why one works and the other doesn't. Just annoying. So once again, what I wanted to see. It's going to go through there and into front of this. So we'll want to tap this one, drill out these. I'm just going to try and make sure that we don't have any issues with the holes the way we did before, where we had some holes that did not tap nicely and cleanly on their own. So we're going to try and drill out and then manually tap a few holes here and there. That one, this one, going to come in this side, right? Swapping it to a different USB root hub will also help. So it is going into an OBS bot specific USB powered hub, or I'm sorry, not a powered hub, but an OBS bot specific hub and connected into the USB. So I can try and swap it to a different one after stream and see if that helps. And yeah, I didn't think it was a camera overheating issue personally. I was just listening to what people were telling me. I know that like everybody using DSLR cameras and stuff like that, they'll overheat after a while, but you know, I don't know. It is what it is. Hubs suck, lose it if you can. Okay. I mean, I had problems with some of my cameras in the past. That's why I was trying to use the dedicated hub. But, you know, I'll try and reduce the number of connections and jump points between A and B and see if that helps. But yeah, things are going good. We sold a Kitty Max 4 combo and an H2C. So we had a same customer, bought one of each, and we had the Kitty in stock and had to order the H2C, and that just came in. So hopefully he comes in the next day or two and is able to pick up the H2C. And then we had somebody come in and pick up a FlashForge 85X, and we do a little bundle kit with the enclosure kit and camera for it. So we got that and a Casadio build plate, the whole 9 yards. So that was pretty cool. Now I'm trying to order a bunch more printers. We're going to be getting in some Creator 5 and Creator 5 Pros, as well as a few more 85Xs in. And then I will eventually also need to order a bunch of I'm going to need to order a bunch of Kitties as well. All right, we'll work on these as we come to them a little bit. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we will be going into here with 4 screws, so we'll go ahead and get ourselves some threads started on a couple of these. Feels like it is not going in there or getting started, but we just need to get a couple of threads started here. These are M2 by 8, so they're not going to be going too deep or all the way through, I don't believe. But yeah, hope everyone's doing well this evening. Like I said, I apologize for not being on as often as I would like. But a lot of stuff going on around the store, a lot of stuff going on with work. So next week, we were going to try and go face-to-face for the North Carolina Assistive Technology Program. We had got them some bamboo printers and a bunch of filament. It was delivered, and they need help getting it all set up. We're going to try and go face-to-face. However, they had to change the day on us. It was going to be a Monday, which I could have just taken the day off from the other job because the store's closed, but they're an hour and a half, 2-hour drive away. But with how things are working out, there's going to be 2 of those, huh? I just did only 1 of them. Yay. And how things are working out, we'll wind up just having to do a like a teleconference or something, call with them and walk them through getting their printers set up. for the, getting their software and their printers set up. And then I got another print project I'm in the process of printing out right now. Once that's done, we will jump over and start printing parts for another cab. Because if you all remember right, the cab that I had bought all the screws and everything to assemble that cab because I didn't need the bearings and everything. And so that means the hardware that came in the kit, I can actually dedicate to using to build another cab. And I want to build another cab in a different color scheme. And then also build the off-road camper, the overland camper section, and be able to have a flatbed with this with one cab, and then a different cab color with the overland trailer back in, and be able to swatch them out. Yeah, are you guys doing a stream later today on the Index Down Under Maker? I say later today. Later today, your time. It'll be tomorrow for most of us folks over here in the United States. Let me see. I think most of the grease is out of this one. Throw that out there for now, and then what I'll do is throw some super lube up in there, but we're gonna need some of the bearings. We're gonna need these little fellas right here, and I'm pretty sure that we are gonna need to tap the ends here. We're gonna be driving some long screws into these if memory serves me. Let's go ahead and tap these as well before we get going. They did it yesterday. Gotcha. That's right. He said that they were up and running. I just didn't know if they were, doing printing and stuff. I need to go back and look at so many like live streams and stuff like that I'm behind on. Like I believe Modbot was streaming today, and I looked up, and it was like noon. I looked up again, and it was like 5 o'clock. So that gives you an idea how my day was going today. So I learned from the first axle that you will want to go through and thread most of these, because these are the ones that are going to be using like M2 by 20, 25, or 30. So going through and tapping these at least part way is really going to go a long way to helping you get screws in without an issue. Which also means kind of looking forward a little bit and seeing how, which side of things screws are going through. So you can drill them out with a 2mm drill or reamer, and then which things the screws are going into, so that you can tap them. Just give yourself a little bit easier time putting these things together. "28 hours ago." So that would have been yesterday? Good Lord, if I missed a stream by like an entire day. Good gracious. No, wait, yeah, that's right. Because I did bring it up briefly and saw that he just did the frame, right? That was it? Was just the frame? Like an unboxing in the frame? I'm telling you, I'm losing it. Like, I'm lucky to know what day it is. Yeah, you're going to go through the build manual and add a bunch of notes? So the part that everybody was having issues with that kept breaking, where it was like, oh, you know, pre-thread this. And I know Grant did like one or two, broke both of them, then looked at the directions, realized they said pre-thread it. He tried pre-threading and broke that one too, so. Oh yeah, trying to keep up with Steve is tough. I have not done a joint live stream with Steve, but he put a hurting on me. Hey Pete, how's it going? Welcome on in over in Twitch land. I've been trying to go through and we're going to work on the second axle. The first axle, we'll just say it has some issues. So we're going to come over here and work on this other axle and see if we can get it in without similar issues. Okay, that is all the way in. We're going to need to put some grease down here now. So the bearing is pushed all the way in. Centerpiece goes in. We're going to throw some grease in there. We're going to do the same thing over here. Basically, we're going to drop this in, push this through. Everything's centered. Push that bearing fully down into the housing. And if it's not going down there fully, use an appropriate sized object so you can get both the inner and outer race at the same time. Give it a slight tickle. You want to make sure it's fully inserted with no gap. And everything's still turning. Used most of these. Let me grab my scissors and get another one of these opened up. I could also just reach over and grab the super lube and just put a dab of super lube in there because I'm pretty sure that's what the LDO grease packets are, is super lube, based on the color and consistency. We're just throwing some grease around the top of that. This is where it starts getting fun because you'll pop it up. But we're going to do this one, add some grease into it as well. Again, we're just going to focus on getting it on the top of the gears. Keeping it inside as much as possible. We're going to need some of our MR63 bearings next, because this is going to make that center gear setup. So we need 3 of those, 3 of our M3x8. And these are basically just becoming the, the rods on these bearings. So it goes through the screw, into the printed part, just like that. Everything sits down in there, nice, easy fit. Go ahead and get 3 of these set up. And then we start getting fiddly. We have a little triangle piece. We're going to go ahead and put all 3 of them in here. They're going to sit in there loose. These are basically, the screws are just acting as locating pins, for lack of a better term. We're going to hold this gear up. We're going to drop things. We'll do this 2 or 3 times before we finally get it on there. Hey, Mad Dog Jeff, how's it going? So there are little depressions and cutouts on this other gear of where the screw heads are going to go into. So once again, you got to hold this piece, sort of line it up so that the screw heads drop down on there like so. And as I screw or rotate the bottom shaft, you'll see that stuff moving around. Line up, stay in there. And we're going to line this up. Put it on top. Just like that. And we're going to use M2x20 screws to come through the housing and screw these together. So make sure that everything's lined up. And apparently we're going to use our standard driver because I did not take out the whatchamacallit. I'm going to get all these started and then we'll cinch them all down. Do not go through and tighten up one of these and then do them all one at a time. You want to work your way around, closing the gap slowly. Otherwise, you'll get it out of alignment and cause it to bind. Hey, Zombie, how's it going? Welcome on in and thank you for the subscription for 34 months. That is kind of crazy, dude. We're just tightening everything up and that makes sure that that grease stays in there. But we don't want to take it to the point where it binds up, which is what I did. So I'm just going to basically crack these, quarter turn. The case itself is still in there, and I should be able to get these moving again. So if you tighten them down too much, you will bind the gears and just squish them into each other. So back it off ever so slightly and make sure that your gears are still moving freely. Oh, nice. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool that Bondtech did that for you down under. So how's it been going, Zombie? Yeah, getting on the MOG train. I've been working on it little by little. We've got several parts built already. We've got the whole cab done and the flatbed done, the frame done. And I did all that before I even had the kit. So just using the parts that I had, or the screws that I had on hand. All right. So this is moving pretty freely, so that's good. Now we're going to need some of our other parts here. We're going to use M2x8s. And we're going to come through these parts into these parts. I'm going to go ahead and drill these out just to make life easier. And yeah, I had to get on the MOG train. This thing is just way too cool. And not just that, I've been watching this guy. He's Danish. He's in Denmark. Who's been working, like, we'll say he's a truck collector of sorts. So he's got multiple Unimogs, UAS, and which is another military truck, and a Magirus Dutes, and working, just watching him work on all these older vehicles, and it's just kind of cool. You're about to start a Cyberbrick tank. Nice. How big is that going to be? I thought a lot of the Cyberbrick stuff was really small, but then I was seeing some larger size stuff. I just don't know scale-wise, like how big it is. Okay, so we got those started. Let me put a screw through it really easily like that. Come in here, and you need to make sure you don't want the side that's flat. You want the side that has the like the depressions for the screw heads. That's the side that's going to be available here, or accessible. Once again, don't crank it down from the get-go. Get them all started, and then come back and tighten it down. And the trick here is finding where it snugs up, but that you don't over torque it, because you can pull these screws too deep and actually cause the side of the part to billow out. And that's not good. Thanks for the look, zombie. Yeah, I really want to do the index as well on my Core 1. But I just hadn't ordered the kit yet, partly because of everything going on standing up the shop. So at some point, I probably will do that edition. Of course, at some point, I will finish working on the Voron Stealth Changer as well. Need to get that done since LDO provided all the goodies and bits for that. I need to get that done. All right, so we did the one. It's going to tell us to do two. So we now have two done. And now these are going to go in with M3x20 screws. That many. 6 of these. 3 for each side. We'll need another couple of bearings. And bearing's going to go over that little stub end. Take one of these, and this is where having drilled these holes out and then doing the initial tapping will help us some, because we'll be able to get one started, then come in with another screw and get it lined up right, get it started, and then go in and do the third one. And then once again, it'll just be a matter of working through all three to keep it in alignment as we snug it on down. Hey Alex, how's it going? What's up, dude? Index needs a bit more time for the community to get, yeah. Yeah, the Clipper and Caligo is going to be the hard part, because, you know, that's not an environment that a lot of people play in, right? And the ones that do, it's just going to take time to get used to the new stuff. I did a black box build, and that was very interesting build, but that was also using RepRap firmware on a Duet setup. So that was a whole new setup for me. So it really took some time for me to try and figure all of that out and get comfortable with it. Once again, you're snugging this up. You're not cranking it for all it's worth. At the end of the day, it still needs to move freely. And this bearing needs to have a little bit of side-to-side play so that it lines up properly. If you squish it too much, you lose that bearing play and it becomes a problem. Um, well, until they get the Clipper Calico firmware stuff lined up and well documented so that anybody can do it, it's going to be one of those things where you spend a lot of money, you get your index, you get the physical install done, and then everybody stalls out because they've got to figure out the firmware side of it. You're going to wind up with a lot of builds that just kind of stall out. Yeah, I mean, black box is pretty robust, but I will agree that there was aspects of black box like that just made it a little bit overcomplicated. And it wasn't the duet part, it was like water cooling added a whole nother level of complication to it that a lot of people aren't used to, right? And what's the true benefit of it? I did my build with 5 tool heads, and they were all Revo style, but I used the high temp heaters, right? The 60 watt heaters, and found out that the power supply spec can't feed those 5 heaters on the same print at the same time. So I would basically get brownouts as it was trying to do initial homing and bed mesh moves, which was really annoying to try and figure out. I figured it out, and then just added a. I went to dual UHP 350s and kind of split the load some, and everything worked out. But that that took a bit. Okay, so we now have our initial diff gear or diff assembly. You can do a locked differential. I did have an RC guy in here who was looking over the design that I was showing him, and his suggestion was, because we've got open diffs, his suggestion with the size motor that's here was to do the standard open diffs on the front and the middle axle and put a locking diff, meaning do this piece here, rather than having this part here with the second set of gears, just do the locking. And that will help transmit the torque to the rear wheels a little bit better, and you'll get a little bit better performance out of it. I don't know. It's probably something that I'll build it with all 3 open diffs and maybe do a locking diff as well and just swap that rear axle out and test it out. Make sure they move freely. That they do. And after some run-in, they'll be smoother. Well, they're pretty smooth right now. We're going to run some M20 or M2 by 20. No, not these. These ones. We're going to run some M2 by 20 screws into these. You want to make sure you're using the ones with the shorter nub at the top or at the end. And I'll probably at least go a little bit. Curious how power delivery will work out on the stealth changer build. Yeah, I'm actually wondering if I'm going to have to put a bigger PSU on that or not. I've been talking a lot with Tinkering Techie, and I don't think he had to on his larger builds, so we should be good. Hey, Killer Prince, how's it going? Welcome in. How goes the big move? Been watching that you've managed to get power already to that side of the basement, which is good. All right. And once again, we're going through and just adding tapping some threads in here. This is nylon. All of my gears were printed in Overture Easy Nylon. So there's no glass filled, no carbon filled. I wanted to make sure I did not use a abrasive filled filament for the gears, because over time, those little shards that are on the outer edge of the print will come loose and get into your grease and will just cause additional wear for no real reason. Yeah, he was suggesting also that you could pack them with actual diff grease. All right, these were M2 by 20 reinforcing screws. And this is where I'm going to become a little bit lazy. I got a nozzle over there and another coffee mug that's taking an acetone bath. And I shouldn't say lazy. I'm going to be efficient here. Probably going to add a 600-watt supply for your cell chain. Yeah. Well, and it all depends on what size and how many tool heads you're doing. So I've got a 300 size 2.4, and I'm running 4 tool heads with the Fadus conchs. So I should be good with the standard power supply that's in it. But and I are saying 20 in the front, 30 in the middle, and 40 in the rear. Dude, you're just like killing me. Can't give me that many options, dude. All right, rear axle. So we're finding the one that says RD. It says V2, but it says RD. It'll be hard for you guys to see, but I promise you it says RD here and V2 on the other side. So this is the one we're going to put some M2 by 8 screws in. And I believe these are just reinforcing screws. And then on those longer screws, M2 by 20, 25, and 30, you can also, they suggest using a little bit of grease. That's why I have some grease just squirted out on one of the little plastic bags here. And you'll see me dip the ends of the screws in there occasionally when I do, when I run those longer screws in. put 30. Well, I mean, if I'm heavy into the hobby, it would make sense to really get a bunch of different grease viscosities and go with it. But if you're not, just roll with it until you get there. And then when you're doing your maintenance, then you can clean things out and throw a different grease in there or something. Provide enough resistance to keep just one wheel from spinning. If you lose traction for a second, will allow them to spin independently enough not to break things. Grease is only like, yeah, but that's not the point. The point is having multiple types and weights and all that good stuff. All right, so we're going to be putting the screws in through here, actually down through the middle through here, and then into this long side. So we want to drill these out, the smaller pieces out with the 2mm drill bit after we pick it up off the floor. And then we'll tap the ends of the other piece. And that'll just make our life easier to do the assembly. All right, those done. Do a little tappy tappy. And this is one of those things that I should probably do off stream ahead of time for the third axle, is just go through, step through the whole process and do this stuff ahead of time. So, Killa, the salad fork, it was not like damaged, right? It was just all the screws got loose, or was that gorgeous frame busted? So for those of you that don't know, Killa Prince had one of his builds that was in progress that did a little free fall move when they were driving from one duty location to the next. You're not sure yet? Yeah, I'm hoping it just got loose as well. But that whole printer was racking like mad. If anything broke, hopefully it's just prints at the base. But that whole frame was racking pretty bad. And trust me, when I drive, like when I take printers to Colorado and stuff like that, every little like creak or like just any sound that's remotely abnormal, I start freaking out. And there have been a couple of trips where I've had to slam on the brakes, kind of emergency style, and just hope and pray that nothing shifts too much. I see you're jumping over here with all the cool kids. Well, I was surprised to see you over on Twitch. Normally you're over on YouTube. Hey, Spidey, how's it going? Hope you're doing well this evening. Hope you're doing well. We're we're working on the middle axle right now. The other axle, I think I showed you when you were here before. It got a lot of what is it, toe, right? Camber is the in out in the vertical axis, and in the horizontal, it's toe. You went over there to use your prime sub for me? Well, thank you. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Caster, camber, and toe, yeah. One of those things that, you know, when we were working on rebuilding the engine of a Ford Escort back in the day, I had the Chilton's manual, and we went through all of that stuff, setting the initial parameters when you're rebuilding a front wheel drive engine. And yeah, it's knowledge. It's in my head somewhere, but it has not been accessed in a while. So we'll just say that it's in like AWS Glacier storage. I got to pay to recall it. Just getting home from work. Oh, dang, Spidey. 12-hour shifts all week. Oh, that's rough, dude. I mean, I feel ya. I was on a phone call with one of my folks. What? I'll say 2 levels up on the biz ops team of my VP. And just got off that phone call at like 10 to 7. And basically I had enough time to come out, tell Mrs. Dragon she needed to leave and go home for her meeting so that I could get ready to stream real fast. But yeah, we've been having fun. Staying busy, way too busy. And of course, it's so this week is the last week of the 4th quarter, which also means closing the fiscal year for Cisco. So it's just everybody's trying to close the loop on metrics and make sure that everything's right as rain before the end of the year and all that stuff. So you know, Spidey, if you did this, you wouldn't have to go get haircuts as often. Okay. So we just we tapped these, we drilled these, and of course we're going to run screws through these pieces as well. So let's go ahead and get these right sized. Throw it on the ground. Try my best on some of these small thin parts not to drill a hole in my finger. Time to cross the I's and dot the T's. Uh-oh. Yeah, that's basically what it is. And of course, they send out metrics briefings with really no context, right? So the VPs that get these briefings well, some of these are only once a year briefings, right? So they're year-long metrics. And of course, we just did a massive LR and did all these organizational moves. And so it's calling out people that are no longer with the company, you know, and it throws people off and confuses people. And I'm just like, you guys are creating chaos for no real reason. All right, so these are 30 millimeter long screws. We got a lot going on here. So basically, what's going to be the best way to do this? We're going to come through the center socket of this axle. I'm just going to call it an axle hub for lack of a better term. Then we have a flat plate. Then we're going to need a bearing. And so there is on this piece, on this thicker piece, there is a lip right here that bearing is going to ride on. So we put the bearing on there. That's nice and flush in there. Run it through one of those holes. Okay. Now we're going to try and do that with an opposite hole. Try and get all the alignment between these holes set. Right? Because then we're going to come into the end of one of these. We're going to need to start screwing these ends. So we're going to do this by hand. And get it started on a couple of threads. And I really wanted to put some grease on this. Let me put some grease on it. Grease on that one and that one. And once again, I'm just going to start running this in, and then I'll grab the other screw, get that one lined up and start running that side in. And that now has given me the alignment so that I can do the other screws. And I'm just going to dab the tiniest bit of grease on there using my driver. I'm not trying to put like a huge amount of grease on here. I'm just trying to get a tiny dab in a few of the threads. And then, of course, get it off the end of your driver. And this is especially where you want to take your time and just work your way around and don't do any one like way crazy farther than the other, or you'll get it out of a you'll get into a wonky alignment and it'll just be bad. Just take your time, go slow. Hey John, how's it going? All right, before I get carpal tunnel, like I said, just take your time. You want things snug, just don't like try and drive the screw through the plastic. Not what we're here to do, we're just snugging them up. Making sure everything's nice and snug. And now we get to do it a second time. Isn't that fun? Make sure you get your pattern right. So we go through the open-ended black one, through a thin gray piece in my case. Run the second screw through in a crossing pattern so that everything's lined up. And that way when I go to do my other two screws, everything's in alignment already. Put that one in the right direction. Two. Currently I got one of my holes slightly at an angle. They'll be okay. So the whole purpose here is to get our initial alignment. Get those screws lightly in some grease. One started. I'm just going to try and walk these two down, and then we'll do the other two. Oh, maybe not. I was just thinking I'll walk these two down and then do the other ones, and I'm like, well, got to get grease on them, so let's go ahead and get grease on them, and then like I said, we're not trying to put a ton of grease on them. We're just trying to reduce some of the friction as we're putting these in. We did use nylon screw or parts for a reason. It's close. All right, there we go. So there's our second drive gear setup. And now these are going to go at the end of the axles. So we have two different size axles. They are squared on each end. So one's going to go into this side. And the longer end goes on, there's our big gear. The longer end keys in on that side. The shorter axle will key in on the other side. So we're going to be like that. All right. Double check the position of the parts. Long shaft is installed on the geared diff side. Long shaft on where the big gear is. Now on our rear diff cover, one, we're going to go through and make sure that we've got everything cleared out here. No little burrs or any extra brim pieces or anything like that on here. And I know I've watched some people coming at this with a like an actual burring tool on the Dremel. I've been trying not to do anything like that, just because I'm afraid personally that I would enlarge it more than it should be, and then I have a loose fitting axle or diff. What I've been using is my thumb to try and make sure that everything's as smooth as possible. And if I think that it needs some additional work, then I will come in with a set of files and do it by hand rather than using a deburring or a burr bit on a Dremel. We're going to use a couple of our M2x16s on our diff piece here. We're going to come in right through here. These are going to be mount points. So we're going to go through here to strengthen this ear that's kind of hanging out there. So I'm going to get it right close and then I'll finish tightening it by hand. Once again, these should not be holding anything together. It's just a reinforcing screw. Ready? Now we're going to set this down and our diff is going to get dropped into here. And this is where you may have to play around with moving your bearing or sliding your bearings side to side, especially these ones right here that were spaced or have a little bit of, I'll say, flux or give in their spacing. Just trying to rotate it around so that they fall down into the channels right. It's always one of these inside bearings that doesn't seem to line up with the printed part so well. Yeah, that seems like it puts too much pressure on this end. It's like an ever so slight out of alignment. I'm wondering if I just didn't get these tight enough. So there are little alignment spacers on these parts, and that's what I'm having issues just trying to get everything lined up in there. Let me grab my files, and there is a part here that feels like it's a little bird. I'll try and clean that up some, and this is where kind of where the support was, because he's printed like this. So there'll be support down the middle that you pop out. And it also means that there's going to be a little bit of a sag on that, where that overhang was at. So I'm going to come in here and make sure that we got some nice rounded edges. So that seems like it's solved. Something is still off in length here. And this could very well be part of what my problem is with the other axle is Just not going through and checking and rechecking and being anal about all of my alignments. This one doesn't seem like it's straight. Fiddly, fiddly, fiddly. Hey, Delta Trader, how's it going? Just rated in with 13. That is awesome. How are you doing tonight? Hopefully you're doing well. Thank you for the raid over on the Twitch side of the house. We're over here having fun. Delta Trader class was just dismissed and they are bringing the ADHD chaos. Awesome. Yeah, that's just what we need right now. A little OCD, a little ADHD, a little bit of chaos all the way around. So we are trying to get our differentials lined up and everything spaced appropriately. And I'm doing everything I can to keep from like grabbing a Dremel and just going to town, because then I'll make everything way too loose. Just trying to make sure that we have the right amount of spacing here, because I ran into a problem on one of the other axles that I may still have to go and, well, not may, I am going to have to work on off stream to try and figure out what is causing that one to bind a little bit. That seems to be rolling good. When the bearing pops out of its channel. These gaps are super, super tight, it feels like. And I guess I'm trying to figure out, like, did I over tighten? Did I not over tighten? Not tighten enough, and I left the head just ever so slightly exposed, which is causing things to rub, you know, all that good stuff. But we're working on the Unimog. We're building the 6x6 version. And Yeah, we're building the 6x6 version of the Unimog. We're having fun playing with the axles tonight. This is the second axle, so this will be the middle axle. This is a drive axle, not a steer axle. So all right, looking good. Short axle side. Feel like I'm catching an edge somewhere. This is going to be one of those things where being as picky as possible right now is probably going to be in our best interest in the long term. Okay, so I think we're good on that side. Now to work on the other side. All right, sounds good, Delta Trader. Thank you for the raid, and you have a great night. Hey, Jim, how's it going? Hope you are doing well this evening. Hey, Tinkering Techie, welcome in. All right. I think we're good. All right, I think we're good there now. Whew. Just a little bit of tediousness. Now we're going to need to build the smaller piece of the diff. This is what will tie it to the drive shaft. And I'm not sure how far we'll get tonight because I will call this here about 9:30 so that I can go and get some sleep. as I'm chugging some more energy drink. Hey, Georgia Trader, how's it going? Welcome on in. Welcome on in. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know and you're new here on the Twitch or the YouTube side, my name's Digital Dragon. I'm a 3D printing variety streamer on Twitch and YouTube. We do everything from 3D printer builds to, we don't do printer reviews per se. We do some unboxing of printers. I've opened up a store here in Sanford, North Carolina. So that's another aspect of my life these days is cybersecurity by day, store owner by day and night, and then streaming into the late night. We do builds, repairs, custom prototype prints, and big projects like what we're working on right now with the Unimog 6x6. So that's just kind of a little bit of what we do here, and we'll get back to the build. Whoops, a little bit too much. My other camera keeps freezing, and we haven't figured out completely why yet, so that would be why we're doing what we're doing. Okay. Nothing with this yet. We're going to need this piece. We're going to be going through the center, so we will work on those holes. All right. So the center hole's drilled out. We're going to go through a couple of bearings. We're going to go into this piece, or completely through this piece, and then into the back of this one. So since we're going to go completely through here, I'm going to see if I can't drill all the way through. So these are all nylon. So all parts of the gear differential pieces are Overture Easy Nylon. And the actual housings themselves are Bamboo Basic PLA. And we are coming into the backside over here, so we will tap this part of it. So what we're doing here is just making our lives a little bit easier so that we're not trying to drive M2 by 30 screws through large plastic pieces or long lengths of plastic pieces. That will, I promise you, you will strip the head of a screw. We've done that several times now. And then, you know, it's a sad day and you get to try and get at it with a pair of vice grips or other type of pliers to move those around at very few turns at a time. Loads of fun. All right, I think we'll be good there. So we're going to do M3 by 25, 3 of these, 2 bearings. All right, We're going to come through this piece. Once again, you've got a flat side and a side that's got a depression in it for the 3 screws. That's the side we're going to come through. So we're going to go screw. And then we're going to have 2 bearings that sit on this shaft. And there's going to be some room on this shaft. So there will be a space on this bearing when we're done, between the 2 bearings when we're done. Feel. Like this is going to come out the definitely. These were the 25s, 30s, only 25s. We'll go with it. We'll go with it. And I'm going to get one started, then we'll come in and do second screw through the whole thing. Get that one started, and then that will give us the alignment that we need for the 3rd screw. Turn it. All right. 3 screws on there. Nice and snug, no gaps. Screws do come out a tiny bit, but based on the design of the differential, that should not be a problem. It's not gonna hit on anything. Just making sure that it fits down in there nicely in the tray, and there's no other pieces of brim. All right, now we're going to come in and we're going to go into these 4 screws, or these 4 holes, sorry. I'm going to go ahead and drill through this. So is everybody looking forward to the weekend? I definitely am. Looking forward to the weekend. Supposed to go to Mass this coming weekend, but the host canceled the event. The weekend after could very well be a thing. All right, sounds good, Rob. Enjoy. My alarm just went off, so we're at the 2-hour mark, right thereabouts. M2 by 20 for these. And once again, we're going to go all the way through this and into this piece. So, one lined up, get it started. Work our way around getting all of them. Leaving just enough wiggle room that we can hand tighten it at the end. Okay. And this is going to drop down in here. I'm just trying to check and see if things are catching, because all of the screws in here feel like they're a little long. Use 20s. If we don't use 20s, we'd have to use 16s. And 16s, not whether I have enough of them, it's whether we're getting down in there with them. I mean, to me, 18s would have been better to use here, even though we don't use 18s in this apparatus. And going shorter here would probably be better as well. Hey Liz, how's it going? Welcome in. How are you today? I am going to take these out and at the very least go the next size smaller on these three. Just because it almost feels like it's sticking out and catching on this casing, and I do not want it to do. Hope you're doing well tonight. More time on more prints. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to tell you this, Tinkering Techie. I've done nothing on the Voron. We've had a steady stream of printer repairs in the store, and that has kept me pretty busy. And I'm about to the point on the Elegoo, one of the Elegoo canvases that I'm going to wind up having to go to Elegoo and try and get some other parts, because I think that's going to be the issue, and that's going to be the fix, is to get some new parts. Let's say this was a I'm sorry, 25. Five, go to a 20. We'll still get down into there, so that's good. But yeah, the weekend, I'm looking forward to the weekend here as well. Be nice if we didn't have rain. I mean, I know we need it for crops and stuff, but it'll be nice not to have rain every day of the week. We actually started off today with flash flood warnings. It was great. Now, these were 20s. I'm going to go ahead and see what 16s will do. It's going to give me bite in the part and not go all the way through, which may foul up on a bearing. So I'm going to try and do this and see if this doesn't give us what we need. Like I said, I think 18s would be better here, but just 18s aren't in the kit. All right. So that way we shouldn't have nothing like rubbing up against anything. I am going to go ahead and try and get the burrs off the end here. All right. It's definitely going to let those bearings drop down in the right place. And that's a lot smoother. All right, there we go. Now, hasn't told me to put any grease at any place yet. And now it's going to tell me to put grease on the big gear and this other gear. And we're putting a good deal of grease in here. And if you get big blobs that seem to be in areas that doesn't matter, just pick it up, move it around some. And if you feel like you hit some spots that don't have grease in it, well, just put a little more grease in it. I don't think you can really have too much grease in these gears, especially not when this appears to be PTFE based grease. All right. Now it wants us to put the top axle cover on, and we want to make sure that we don't have any burrs or anything in here now. Last thing we want to do is have gone through and cleared up a bunch of stuff on the bottom and then bind it on the top. Go through and make sure that there's no little bits of brim left. That could fold over and then cause an issue with one of the bearings. Like I said, I'm a pretty big proponent of just using your fingernail and some manual tools. It'll take a while longer probably, but it's always going to be better than using like a grinding bit or something on a Dremel, and then next thing you know, you've either blown through a side or you blew through a like a alignment spot. Take your time, use your fingers. You'll feel any rust spots and be able to hit them with a file. Hey, Jeff Prince, how's it going? Welcome on in. Rating with a party of 3. Awesome. Awesome. What were you up to tonight on your stream, Jeff Prince? What were you doing on your stream this evening? All right, I think that's pretty good. All right, everything seems to still be moving, but it just feels like there's a huge gap there. I'll need to get closed up. Not sure if it's a fitment issue around the bearings. Bearings just need to get compressed down, or we'll see. We'll see. All right, so that's there. We're going to need 6 M2 by 20 screws. Looks like we're going to be coming through the top cover into the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead, drill through this side to make my life a little bit easier on getting these aligned. All right. There. And then probably help to do some not closing this down all the way just yet, but I am trying to get all these screws aligned up and started in their holes. I'll finish these up by hand. All right. Now we got these pretty close. We'll go ahead and finish bringing these, closing the gaps in the axles by hand. And then of course we want to make sure that everything is still moving. Right, everything appears to be moving. That's good. You had heat creep clog last weekend. You were able to pull out the filament with ease. Yep. It's amazing how easy it is to get those any hot end clogs out on a conch. All right, these are M2x8, so we should be able to do these by hand. Once again, we're just making sure that this comes down and we're able to close up the gap in the seam. Doing these smaller ones by hand is going to help us gauge how close we are to getting them fully driven without over torquing them and stripping out the head or stripping out the part itself. Whoops. Apparently also gives me a chance to try and stab myself. Alrighty. Now we get to put the cover on. Once again, we're going to make sure that we've got all of the excess stuff out of here. We can use our favorite pry bar tool technique here. Make sure that everything is primarily out. Finish up with our with our file. What did I do with the file? Ah, there it is. We'll make sure that that gap's good. We'll drop it on there loosely and make sure that things still move. All right, what are we putting this on with? M2x8. Quite a bunch of them. I'm going to try and get these started and see how close we are to lining these up. And that answer is going to be not close at all. So I've got a big gap here on this part. So may wind up having to take this back apart and figure out what is causing that, because I have a feeling it's somewhere in the bearing seats. I'm going to go ahead and let the front open a little bit. Just see if that allows me to kind of close on the back, so to speak. I can get this back edge to close, which that seems to be a big no. going on here? I don't know if my parts possibly warped some or what may be causing this decently sized gap here in the middle. Got a big gap and you cannot lie. Yeah, so you see I'm getting this nice split gap here, and this cover is not going to line up properly. Like, of course, I'll be able to screw in one side, but I won't be able to get the other side appropriately, and then that's going to cause an issue. So I'm going to have to take this back apart. There is still something that is causing this to, the gap to open up. So I will have to take this back apart and try and figure out what is causing that gap. Yeah, because something's preventing it from closing, period. I can't even rotate it backwards right now. See, that finally let me rotate it backwards some. So I wonder if I put this on, close it up. I'm not going to put these all the way in. I'm just going to put 4 of them in and then see if I can close it up and keep it aligned. If not, then there's something else inside that's keeping it from closing up and will cause it to bind. And the only thing that I can think of would be the bearing journals, but it didn't look like there was anything in the bearing journals that would cause that issue. So 4 screws just basically aligning, nothing's clamped down, everything's still moving. Now as I go to clamp this down, well, this caused things to seize up on me. All right. It still moves, but it's pretty, a lot tighter than it was. So something, I don't know, but how about this? It's about that time, and the dragon is going to go take a siesta. Go ahead and put these in, seal this up, and sleep on it. See if we want to come at it again tomorrow with fresh eyes, take everything apart, and try and go hog wild on it or something. All right. There we go. It's all closed up. I mean, things still turn, but it is tight. It feels like there is something might be dragging. I don't know if you can hear this. There should not be play like that. So look, we'll be taking the second axle back apart. It was looking good. Yeah, that's a creaking sound right back here. It almost sounds like maybe we broke something, but it's just friction between the gears. Okay. We'll leave it and we'll work on it Saturday. But for now, folks, I think I am going to call it a night and head home, try and relax, get a little bit of rest, and yeah, enjoy tomorrow, Friday. So everybody, thank you so much for being here and hanging out with me tonight. Let me bring this up some so you can see my lovely face and shiny forehead. Yeah, call it a Thursday night. Exactly. I'm going to call it a night, and I'm going to head home, get some rest. Spidey, hope I get a chance to see you soon. And yeah, everybody have a great evening. I will see you all Saturday night. I am going to try my best to stream Saturday night, even if it's 30 minutes to an hour to just sit here and BS with everybody and not do anything. Everybody, have a great evening. Eagle, have a great night. Let Mrs. Dragon know I'll be heading home soon. And yeah, everybody, have fun. Bye now.